Well, you have asked, and I am submitting to peer pressure. So for today's episode, this is technically a part 2, if you will, to another episode I did a few months ago where I reviewed the Come On Death May Die game piece from San Diego Comic-Con. But with that game piece, there was this little guy, the Godzilla vs. Cthulhu comic book. And a lot of people have been asking, hey, when are you going to review this thing? Well, today is that day. We're going to open this up, we're going to check it out, and see how Godzilla does against the old one. So, if you have watched the previous video, where I reviewed the entire package this came with, you saw this comic book. This was part of the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive for this game series, Cthulhu Death May Die, which is a tabletop game. I myself am not much of a tabletop gamer, so I don't know much about it. Did a little review into it. Apparently it's a very popular game, and the Cthulhu expansion set is apparently very big right now. Don't quote me on that, but more people were more interested in this comic book because it actually chronicles a long thought up confrontation between Cthulhu and Godzilla and who would win. Well, this book does answer that. Now, before you ask, yes, this is an official comic. Toho said yes to this. Now, is it in canon? No, but what really is canon? It is one of those fun mashups like Godzilla fighting the Avengers or Justice League or, you know, the various other wild characters. But since we're getting HP Lovecraft and Atomic Terror going against each other, this is what we want. We want fun out of life. So there was 3 covers to this thing at San Diego Comic-Con. I chose this one because it was the one I liked the best. There was a second cover and a sketch cover that went along with it that were a little bit more pricier. So I don't know if these are going to be much more readily available. I know the set was to be sold at some tabletop game convention in the UK at some point. It might be coming up very soon. And I'm not sure if this is going wide eventually. I know this was part of a Kickstarter campaign, but it was only sold at San Diego thus far. So I know people are eager to get their hands on it. It's going for quite a bit on eBay right now. I mean, the comic alone is going for more than what the entire set ran. I paid $25 for the game piece and the comic, and yeah, it was probably the deal of the entire show. I mean, the game piece was cool. If you go back and watch the video, I was very impressed by the 3D printing that was involved with it. The comic book, that is another mystery. So we're going to open this up. We're going to go through it. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a long story. The book is a standard 32-issue book, but if you look into it, the story is quite short because then we get all these little extra bonuses in the back. So I'm going to do a little something different than I do with my normal videos. So I'm going to show you highlights of the comic book as I describe it. I'm not going to show you the whole comic book because, one, it's kind of a crappy thing to do to the people that publish this. I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff, but also I'm not sure the legality of it as well. So I will give you the highlights, the bits, the overall story as, again, there's not much of a story here. It's pretty much Godzilla doing his thing against Cthulhu. So first things first, this story is written by Jonathan Mayberry and drawn by Bruno Abidas. So Mayberry, I looked up, he has done work for Marvel in the past, but he's most notable as a horror writer. And if you're writing HP Lovecraft prose, you want a horror writer. Bruno has worked for DC, most notably a Cyborg series that he did for the company. So the art here is actually fairly well done for a little indie comic. The basic gist, the story opens with a man named Volkov getting his face beaten in by a cult leader by the name of Metzger. And Volkov is a spy trying to infiltrate this death cult that worships the great and powerful Cthulhu. Metzger, realizing what's going on, that this cult is about to bring about the end of the world, gets beaten but left alive, where he informs a nurse of what is about to happen. From there, Metzger gets his way, and Cthulhu is freed from his watery prison and makes his way towards Boston. Now, I have to note that this story takes place in the era of HP Lovecraft stories, so between the 1910s and 1920s. So it's very old tech based. So you're not going to see jets or anything like that. Instead, as Cthulhu makes his way towards Boston, his presence, the call, if you will, awakens a rival. Wow, who would that be? It's none other than Godzilla. So Cthulhu shows up in Boston Harbor, starts wreaking havoc. He takes on a couple of biplanes. All good stuff, as a giant monster action would have. Meanwhile, Godzilla makes his way to Boston as well to take on this new foe. As Cthulhu pretty much rains down cosmic horror upon the city, he is finally met by his new foe, which is none other than Godzilla. Dozens look on in terror as these two monsters are about to clash, and here lies the question. Can a god beat an elder god? Well, Godzilla and Cthulhu throw down. Cthulhu having many, well, let's just say supernatural powers, uses them on Godzilla along with his strength, but Godzilla doesn't take it lying down. The battle does do a lot of damage to the city of Boston, and while Godzilla's ripping off one of Cthulhu's trendles, he uses his psychic powers and brings about many of Godzilla's former foes to inflict psychic damage upon him, while the military tries to quell both these monsters with, you're not gonna believe this, zeppelins. Cthulhu looks like he gets the upper hand, but this is a Godzilla story. Godzilla isn't gonna lie down, and take that just as is. Very battle damage, unleashes a very powerful atomic blast. And yes, I know you're questioning, well, how can Godzilla have atomic energy before the advent of atomic energy? Well, you're also dealing with a cosmic god, so it's best not to ask questions. Cthulhu gets defeated. Metzinger realizes that he has failed and now has to pay a fee for his failure to his god, which looks like one of the fishmen from Dagon shows up and claims him. But you see Metzger, in shadow, much like a Disney movie, hanging himself. Godzilla goes back, goes for a rest in his cave, where you see various other skulls and skeletons of other monsters, and a battle of wits has ended. Godzilla is victorious. Cthulhu has been defeated for another day. That's it. That's the whole story. The rest of the book, you get bits of script, if you will. Some of the black and white art. And then we get a look at the game piece. Fully painted, if you have done so as such. I didn't paint mine. In fact, I actually bequeathed it to a friend who is a tabletop gaming nerd, so he'll make use out of it. And pretty much gives you a playlist of the tabletop game in question. There you go. And advertising for the game itself. So that is Cthulhu, Death May Die, Godzilla vs. Cthulhu. It's a little side story. It's a fun little one-off of Godzilla fighting Cthulhu. This is what I like out of my comics. This is kind of what I'm happy to see that IDW has been doing lately, where they're taking a lot of wild ideas and playing with them. So, again, I don't know if this book is going to be readily available to the general public. I know on the secondary market it's going for a lot. I paid $25 for this set at Comic-Con. The book alone is going for about $40 minimum. That's depending on which cover you got. Like I said, I got the basic, the A cover. There is a B cover and a black and white version of the B cover as well. As for tabletop gaming, I'm not a tabletop guy. Like I said, I bequeath the piece to a friend who will make good use of it. So I was told that the book and the game piece will be made available at a tabletop gaming expo in the UK. I'm not sure if that has passed yet or not. Like I said, I don't follow that scene at all, so I'm not 100% sure. But for those of you who've been asking, how is the book? The book is fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a very cool piece of Godzilla lore. And, for literary fans, I have read a lot of HP Lovecraft in my time. This is one of those cool things that like Alan Moore would do back in the day with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So, there you guys go. That is Cthulhu, Death May Die, Godzilla vs. Cthulhu, a Death May Die story. All right, well, that will wrap things up. Remember, if you like what you see, we do have a show. It's called The Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. You can find us at thekaijukingdompodcast.com. And if you don't like to download, we're also on all of your favorite streamers, Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you might find better podcasts. We're also on social media. It's right there. X, Instagram, Facebook. Those are our three big ones. You can always get a hold of us there. That's where we post all the latest news and all the drops of our new episodes of both this show, anything else on YouTube, and our podcasts. And that will do it for this edition of the Koffers. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.